Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Sean Talks Cybersecurity. I'm your host, Sean Woolslegel, and today is St. Patrick's Day. I got my St. Pat's apparel on, so I'm all festive and ready to go here for St. Patty's Day in the United States. Hope you have your green beer and your corned beef and cabbage ready to go. Today will be a fun day for all you who are celebrating. And everybody's Irish today. Everybody's Irish, so... all right, let's go ahead and dive into some cybersecurity news. Why don't we? Okay. So, let's dive in here. So we got an Apache Tomcat vulnerability actively exploited just 30 hours after public disclosure from Ravi Lakshmanan from thehackernews.com. So Ravi, he talks about how a recently disclosed security flaw impacting Apache Tomcat has come under active exploitation in the wild following the release of a public proof of concept a mere 30 hours after public disclosure. The vulnerability, tracked as CVE 2025-24813, affects the below versions. So Tomcat 11, 10, various versions of 10, various versions of 11, and various versions of 9. What is the issue here? So we have remote code execution or information disclosure when specific conditions are met. Rights enabled for the default servlet, disabled by default. Support for partial put, enabled by default. A target URL for security-sensitive uploads that is a subdirectory of a target URL for public uploads. Attacker knowledge of the names of security-sensitive files being uploaded, and the security-sensitive files are also being uploaded via partial put. So, successful exploitations could permit a malicious user to view security-sensitive files or inject arbitrary content into those files by means of a put request. So, if you guys remember from a couple sessions back, if you go back and rewatch the live streams, I talked about put. We did that on Try Hack Me, and that's one of our HTTP requests. So, keep that in mind. That's what this is taking advantage of on Tomcat. And so you can see how something like that could be useful for an attacker, which is what they're doing in this case. And so it's actively being exploited in the wild. And if you're running Tomcat, I would say, keep an eye on things. Let's see. The vulnerability has been resolved in Tomcats 9.0.99, 10.1.35, and 11.0.3. So based on that, if the project maintainer is saying vulnerability has been resolved, I would go ahead and patch your systems. Any kind of systems you have that are running Tomcat, go ahead and go out there and start to patch those systems. And, if you have any kind of leadership that is like, okay, well, we have to have these systems up, like we can't, this is going to affect business. You need to stress to them the importance of why the system needs to get updated and patched as quickly as possible. Important stuff, and that's definitely a big one. So I'm sure there's a lot of people who are running Tomcat. If you are running Tomcat, definitely don't sit by on this one. Get this one patched as quickly as possible. Okay, next item for the day is supply chain attack on popular GitHub action exposes CI/CD secrets by Bill Toulas over on Bleeping Computer. So a supply chain attack on the widely used TJ Actions changed files GitHub action used by 23,000 repositories potentially allowed threat actors to steal CI/CD secrets from GitHub Actions build logs. The GitHub Action is a very popular automation tool designed for GitHub Action workflows, and it allows developers to identify files changed in a pull request or commit and take actions based on those changes, generally used in testing, workflow triggering, and automated code linting and validation. So, looks like it was out on March 14th. Dumped CI/CD secrets from runner worker process to repository of any project using the action. As a result, workflow logs were publicly accessible. Anyone could read and steal exposed secrets. As per the latest update by the developers, the attacker compromised a GitHub personal access token used by a bot, which had privileged access to the tool's repository. However, it is currently unclear how exactly the PAT was compromised. The compromise has lasting repercussions for impacted software projects, so a CVE ID was assigned to the incident for tracking. So here's a nice little graphic. TJ Actions changed file supply chain attack, post-compromise secret exfiltration flow from dependent repositories. So it looks like we have from Wiz, basically CI runner execution, self-hosted or managed, invoke, download memory dump Python script from this GitHub, gist.github-user-content.com, Nikita Stupin, and then execute script while grepping for secrets, double encode secrets using base64, and then print the result to a workflow log. And then exfil via public access, the attacker exfils, and then the workflow log, and then it's done. So I'm not sure exactly how that works, but I would say that, basically, I know how grep works. I know how Python works. I know if we're going to double encode secrets using base64, and then this printing to workflow log. So, yeah, this could be a potential really big deal here. So restored TJ Actions repository was updated earlier today to include instructions on what potentially impacted users need to do. So definitely keep an eye out there if you're using TJ Actions, and if you know anybody who is, just share this with them. Let them know about this news article. They might already be aware at this point, but it never hurts to mention to your friends and your colleagues that this is happening. So share that out, and let's get the word around about this TJ Actions repository and getting this all cleaned up. Okay, so that's it for the news, guys. Thank you so much for hopping in here again to Sean Talk Cybersecurity, and hope everybody's having a good St. Patrick's Day today. It's the Irish holiday, so I'm enjoying my day so far. I don't have very much green right now, except for just this lovely ginger ale. So I gotta get what I can get right now. Okay. I'll get my green beer later. I'll get my corned beef and cabbage later too, but we'll get there. One thing at a time. Okay, let's dive into some more Windows. User accounts, profiles, and permissions. If you guys remember, last week we left off with Windows Fundamentals 1. We talked about GUI, file system, Windows System 32 folders, and then we were talking about user accounts, profiles, and permissions now. So yes, this is something you're going to really need to know if you're going to be in cybersecurity or systems administration, anything like that. So user accounts can be one of two types on a typical local Windows system: administrator and standard user. And if you remember, I talked about this before. You always want to have two accounts. You want to have an administrator account that has keys to the kingdom, so to speak. And then you need to have your standard user account, and you should always live in your standard user account unless you really need access to something critical, because if your standard user account gets compromised, then you don't have to worry about something coming back to bite you. So I think that's a good rule of thumb. So the user account type will determine what actions the user can perform on that specific Windows system. An administrator can make changes to the system, add users, delete users, modify groups, modify settings on the system, and then a standard can only make changes to folders and files attributed to the user and can't perform system-level changes. So you can see how that separation of roles and responsibilities is really handy and why it makes sense from a security point of view. So one way is to click the Start menu and then Other User, type Other User. A shortcut to the system settings, Other Users should appear. If you click on it, a settings window should now appear. See below. Let's go ahead and load that box up again, because I don't have it loaded right now, but I think it's going to be helpful for this as we dive in. Okay, bring this back up. All right. So if you click on it, a settings window should now appear. See below. So yeah, this is obviously they want to have that obfuscated. Since you're the administrator, you see option to add someone else to this PC. Standard user will not see this option. Click on the local user account. More options should appear. Change account type and remove. Click on change account type. The value in the drop-down box is the current account type. When a user account is created, a profile is created for this user, and then the location for each user profile will fall under C, users. For example, the user profile folder for the user account max will be C users max. The creation of the user's profile is done upon initial login. When a new user account logs into a local system for the first time, they'll see several messages on the login screen. Now, usually this is what they see here. Well, please wait for the user profile service, it'll say. Once logged in, the user will see a dialog box similar to the one below. indicating that the profile is in creation, setting up personalized settings. So especially if you have like an AD joined machine, you're going to really start to see these setting up personalized settings for this, you know, and then it'll populate those. And especially if you have like group policy in place, once you work in an environment, you have group policy, then certain other things will pop up, like their desktop icons, and especially if they have like things like roaming profiles. So another way to access this information and then some is using the local user and group management. Right click on Start Menu and click Run. Local user group management. This is where I would probably want to be at if I'm a sysadmin or I'm a cybersecurity engineer needing to make changes. This is where I would want to be at. Local user and group management. The Run dialog box allows us to open items quickly. Back to local user group management, you should see two folders, users and groups. If you click on groups, you see all the names of the local groups along with a brief description for each group. Each group has permissions set to it, and users are added to groups by the administrator. When a user is assigned to a group, the user inherits the permissions of that group. A user can be assigned to multiple groups. So you can have groups upon groups upon groups, nested groups, right? So you could have multiple groups and basically have it so that you have like, for example, let's say you had a finance team and then you had a IT team, and you want one person on both of those teams, basically for whatever reason, like for the business, you can actually assign that person to both groups, but they could only see whatever both of those groups could see. So like, let's say you have somebody, let's call them Sally and John. Okay. So Sally works in finance. Let me see if I can bring up my handy dandy writing tool here, and then I can kind of show you what I'm talking about rather than try to explain it, because sometimes it's just easier to bring that kind of thing up here. So yeah, there we go. Cool. All right, so let's do this. All right, this will be the first time I'm doing this, so we're gonna do it together, everybody. Okay, so we have right here, we have, oh, it's not on the right screen. Okay, well, that's not going to work. But, okay. What we could do is, we could do this. That's not going to work. Okay, never mind. Sorry. Anyway, let's just say we have, I'll make sure that's fixed before the next live stream, guys. I'm sorry about that. But basically, let's say you have Sally and John. Sally works over in finance. John works in IT. You have Sally should only be able to view the finance information, finance data. So she is only in the finance department. Okay. And then you have John, who should have access to both finance and IT because he's a systems administrator. He should be able to see both things for whatever reason. Let's just say the CEO needs that to happen. So he's given access to both. He can see both sets of data, but then Sally can't ever see what's in the IT department's group, whatever, how that's set up. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Like I said, I'll try to make it easier to understand these things in my next session here because I do want to get the pen working here. I'm working on that. So, all right, so what is the name of the other user account? Click on Add Someone Else to the PC. Okay. So let's see. Other users. Try hack me. That's the other local account. But it's doesn't look like that's right. That's odd. What groups is the user a member of? Okay, we'll actually go to local users and managers. So we'll do run since it can't. Okay, and then the extension is L user mgr.msc. Okay, and then we'll go under users, and then the Try Hack Me Billy. That's the name. What group is this user a member of? You can see remote desktop users and users. Remote desktop users and users. And then what built-in account is for guest access to the computer? That would be guest. And what is the account description? So it's a built-in account for guest access to this computer domains. But I don't think that that's... that's odd. Okay, so what is the account description? Right here, build an account for guest access to the computer domain. I don't know if it's asking for that, or maybe it's just asking for this, actually. Maybe they had it out of order. I'm thinking that's what happened here. So we're just going to say window $fun1! So yeah, I think they just had that out of order. So okay, so user account control. I'll dive into some of this here. We'll minimize this in case we need to come back to it. The large majority of home users are logged into their Windows systems as local admins. Remember from the previous task that any user with admin is the account type that can make changes to the system. A user doesn't need to run with high elevated privileges on the system to run tasks that don't require such privileges, such as surfing the internet, working on a Word doc, etc. This elevated privilege increases the risk of a system compromise because it makes it easier for malware to infect the system. So that's why I say, and I can't stress this enough, that you need to have your separation of your administrator account and then your standard user account. It does make it trickier on like grandma, like if you have a grandparent or something and they have one account, and this is why basically older folks have this issue where they and I'm talking like people who are in their 70s or 80s and they have Windows, and then they get like a phone call and they're like, hey, can you install this on there? And then you guys have all seen the videos on YouTube, but basically they get in there and then they wreak havoc on these people's machines. And that's even like younger people really have this issue as well. But if you have the separation of the user account privileges, then you're much better. So I would say, take this as one of the most important parts. So protect local users with such privileges. Microsoft introduced User Account Control, or UAC. This concept was first introduced with the short-lived Windows Vista, garbage, and continued with versions of Windows that followed. UAC by default doesn't apply for the built-in local admin account. How does UAC work? When a user with an account type of admin logs into a system, the current session doesn't run with elevated permissions. When an operating system requires higher level privileges needed to execute, the user will prompt to confirm if they permit the operation to run. So usually you get it in like a box that'll show up, like right here. You see how this Windows box is. You'll see like a little thing that'll pop up and it'll say, type in your username and password. If you're a sysadmin, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're in help desk, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. It always prompts you for those user permissions, right? So anyway, let's look at the program on the account you're currently logged into, the built-in admin account. Right-click to view its properties. Okay, so looks like we have Wireshark here. What it wants us to do is actually go ahead and click on properties, and then under security, then we can start to see who has access to this. So THM WinFun1 administrator, anybody who's in the administrators group can actually access this, okay, and then system. So that's interesting and good to have that on hand. So log in as the standard user and try to install this program. To do this, you can remote desktop into the machine as the standard user account. You have the username and password for the standard user. It's visible in L User Manager MSC. So if we remember here, so L User Manager MSC, and we had Try Hack Me Billy, and then Windows $fun! Yeah. So before installing the program, notice the icon. Do you see the difference? When you're logged in as the standard user, the shield icon is on the program's default icon. See below. So yeah, you would see that. So this is actually what we see here on this. We're logged in as the main. Let's go ahead and start up our attack box, and let's see if we can remote in that way. So start attack box, and then we will remote in to that. Okay. So let's see. Let's just keep on reading, and then we'll come back to this. So double-click the program. This is what I'm talking about by UAC. User access control. This is what comes up. You type in whatever, admin, and then password. Right, double click the program and you'll see the UAC prompt. Notice that the built-in administrator account is already set as the username and prompts the account's password, see below. After some time, if a password is not entered, the UAC prompt disappears and the program does not install. This feature reduces the likelihood of malware successfully compromising your system. Yeah, so UAC in a nutshell is just the way to keep those account privileges separated, and that's exactly what you want to have. So I'm actually not going to do this because you guys already see right here. This is what it's going to show you. It's going to show you basically if I log in as the local account, this THM WinFun1. No, this isn't the this is the admin. What I actually mean to say is the TryHack Me Billy account right here. Okay, so if we were to log in with this, then you would actually see this right here. Okay, you'd see that little shield icon, right? And then if we try to install the program, it would prompt us for this, and then we'd have to provide administrator privileges, right? But UAC stands for user access account control, not access, account control. Okay, cool. So that's it for that one. On a Windows system, the primary locations to make changes are the settings menu and the control panel. For a long time, the control panel has been the go-to location to make system changes, such as adding a printer, uninstall program, etc. The settings menu was introduced in Windows 8, the first Windows operating system catered to touchscreen tablets, and is still available on Windows 11. It says 10 here, but we're going to take it even further. But basically, this is where, and it does really make it easier from a sysadmin perspective, because sometimes just to get out to something, you can just type it, you know, like local security policy, for example, local users, control panel, for example, right? You can type that. You can type run administrative tools, and so that does make it easier. But it doesn't mean you should forget everything, like, you know, this local users and groups, right? LUSRMGR. So control panel, we'll actually open this one up and show you guys what we have here. So control panel is system and security, user accounts, and you can change things here. And you can actually click on view, and you can view it by small icons or large icons, depending on how you're used to working. But this could be helpful. So if we actually click on user accounts, we can go ahead and change some things in here as well, manage another account. And you can actually add user accounts in this way. But this is one way to do it. But you can actually go out to local users and groups as well. Okay. So let's see. And actually, there is a Windows Administrative Tools. This actually is kind of where you want to live out of as a sysadmin. You have here computer management. You have like iSCSI Initiator, event viewer, disk cleanup, pretty much all of your different areas that you want to be in, regedit, all kind of live out of this right here. PowerShell is also handy because you can do the same thing with PowerShell. Pretty much everything you can do with these, you can do with PowerShell. So just keep that in mind. Computer management is kind of one of your main things. As a network or Windows administrator, you have your local users and groups right here, and you can do the same exact thing as what we were doing before. You can see here we have our groups. Go ahead and go back. We can go to users, and you can see the same exact thing, but this is just living in computer management. This is sort of what I'm used to, and this is where I would recommend that you get used to is computer management, because this is kind of where you can go to do everything. Kind of one size fits all. Task scheduler, event viewer, view your logs, that sort of thing. So anyway, we'll get into that eventually. I don't want to put the cart before the horse. I just want to talk about what you should be using and what is real world. Computer management is kind of your bread and butter as a Windows admin. So control panel is the menu where you will access more complex settings, like it was saying. In settings, click on network and internet, and then from there you can go ahead and change adapter options. So let's go ahead and open up settings, and we'll do what it says, and we'll go to our network and internet. And so you see here, you can actually click on change adapter options, and then you have right here, and you can do this also in control panel as well, right? But you right here see you have your Ethernet. Okay, and then if you're unclear which to open, if you wish to change a setting, use the Start menu and search for it. In the example below, the search was wallpaper. Notice the few results were returned. So choose background, slideshow, or solid color, right? So if I do the same exact thing, you'll see what happens. Yeah, so I typed in wallpaper, and you can see it just gives you the automated suggestion on what Windows feels like you're looking for. Sometimes you get what you want, sometimes you don't. If we click on the best match a window to the settings menu appears to make changes to the wallpaper. In the control panel, change the view to small icons. What is the last setting in the control panel view? Okay. In the control panel view, you have Windows Defender Firewall. Cool. All right, so the last subject that will be touched on in this module is the Task Manager. The Task Manager provides information about the applications and processes currently running on the system. Other information is also available, such as how much CPU and RAM are being utilized, which falls under performance. You can access the Task Manager by right-clicking the taskbar. So if you just right-click right here, and then you click on Task Manager, boom, you got it right there, right? You can also do this through Control-Alt-Delete as well. I don't know if they'll allow me to do this on here or not. Yeah, so no, I don't know if TryHackMe has a way to do it. But essentially, if you were able to do Control-Alt-Delete, if I type Control-Alt-Delete right now, it's going to show Control-Alt-Delete on my local machine, which I don't want to do. But essentially, just know that it does the exact same thing. You can try it yourself if you're running Windows right now. You can click Control-Alt-Delete and then go to Task Manager. Task Manager will open in simple view and won't show much information, right? But you can click on more details, and then it gives you a lot more information. So here you can see your processes and what's running your CPU. Usually what I like to do when I come in here is actually click the CPU button to see what's taking the most CPU. Okay, so, and then you have memory, right? And you can do the exact same thing. And then you can do performance. You can see exactly like just a nice like graph feature. If you've never done this before, users, you can see who's all logged in and what processes they have running. So administrators, the only user logged in, and this is all the processes they have running. And then details around the processes and what you have, and then services running underneath of those. So you can refer to the blog post for more information about Task Manager. So let's open this up just because I'm curious what How To Geek has to say. So basically you have a nice little place you can go to reference like what Task Manager is and how to use it. Essentially, this is just like your troubleshooting 101. Like you can come out here and see if there's any weird services that are running. You can kind of see any kind of processes, and you can kill processes. Like I can actually go ahead and here, and I could do end task or end process tree. And so you can just kill your stuff here. You can do the same thing here. You can actually stop a service or restart a service. And I've seen it in the past when I was a sysadmin where there was malware installed on machines, and they would have services that were running, and you could tell because it was like the processes were eating up the CPU. And so if you go to services, you could actually you could stop the service, and then you would disable, well, first you would disable your network, right? So you turn the network features off so that way whatever that piece of malware is that's on that machine isn't getting out to whatever it is that it's trying to connect to. And then once you've done that, then you can go ahead and click stop and then stop it from getting out. So you can refer to this blog post for more information. Yeah, we've already went over that. So what is the keyboard shortcut to open Task Manager? That'd be Control-Alt-Delete. Maybe it wants us to have like, probably wants us to have Control plus Alt plus Delete. I don't know. That's what it is. Control-Alt-Delete is to open Task Manager. Let's just go out to DuckDuckGo and see. Keyboard shortcut for Task Manager. So let's see. What does DuckDuckGo say? Because maybe there's something I don't know. Control-Shift-Escape. Control plus Shift plus Escape. So I just learned something new with the rest of you. Control plus Shift plus Escape. And then that'll open up Task Manager. So you can do a Control Delete or you can do Control Shift Escape and it'll do the same thing. Again, this was a generic overview of Windows. There are intermediate and advanced topics for each topic. So we'll go ahead and continue this path around Windows. Windows is essential. Like I said before in my last one, Windows is a workhorse. I mean, it's going to get a lot of stuff done for you. And so it's like your Ford F-150 versus like a Ferrari versus, anything that's like a little bit more premium. Windows is really good at just getting your basic stuff done. And so a lot of people use Windows for that reason. I would say most people, like the world runs on Windows, really. I mean, it's essential to know how to use Windows. It's essential, if nothing else, because you need to know Active Directory if you're going to be in cybersecurity. So let me switch over to my main cam here, and we'll talk face-to-face here for a second. Basically, the whole Windows thing is, as long as you can understand how to work out of that computer manager like I had open before, if you can get into computer management and understand your way around that, if you can understand Active Directory, and we'll get into some other things as well over the next couple days, then you'll be fine. Windows is pretty easy for the most part to understand, and so you just need to know the basics as a network or a cybersecurity administrator or engineer or analyst or whatever you want to call yourself. Whatever you do in cybersecurity, you just need to know how to work your way around it a little bit. So that's really all I have for you guys today. It's been a kind of a crazy day on my end, but it is St. Patrick's Day, so I'm not going to let anything get me down today. I'm just going to have a good day and enjoy some green Irish beer here in a little bit. Have a Guinness for me if you partake, and I'll see you guys later. Have a good day.